That brings us to item number 12, which is public participation. And I will tell the participants tonight that the board welcomes and encourages public participation. We respectfully ask that you adhere to the procedures and decorum provided in board policy BEDH, public participation at meetings. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and Dr. Harris will help keep time with that. Questions asked during public participation will be handled in accordance with board policy BEDH. I would also ask anybody that's going to participate, if you have handouts, that you give those to Ms. Goggins when you come up to speak, and that you, in our policy, that you adhere to the policy and its respect for board members, our faculty and staff, and our members at all times. So with that, we have 2 folks that have signed up, and the first person that signed up is Mr. Randall Rush. Mr. Rush, if you'll come forward. Rushi. I got it for next time.
I don't know if the board is aware, but after many years of trying, the state legislature passed and the governor signed an amendment to South Carolina Code 59-29-890, which calls for an exemption to the physical education requirement for those students which participate in marching band and fulfill the activities that are normally associated with physical education. As of this time, as of the fall semester, guidance counselors in the district, or at least at my high school, are telling students they must still enroll in physical education because there's no plan in place. So my question is, where is the district on developing this plan? Who's the point of contact? Who's shepherding this through the wickets to go to the State Board of Education? And when might we expect this to occur? And also, I would ask that if the plan does fall into place soon, I hope, that any students who are currently being forced to enroll in physical education program, I'll take the example of my son who is taking AP Calculus and AP Physics and marching band for the 4th year, has also had to enroll in virtual SCPE to satisfy this requirement. So that's just an additional burden, and I think it's needless given the amendment that has been passed by the legislature. And so I'd ask the board to see that this is moved on and that we retroactively fix that for any other students that happen to fall in this particular situation. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rushi. Now hear from Ms. Kim Murphy. Ms. Murphy.
Good evening. At the last few board meetings, I've discussed the growing problem of corruption in school districts in South Carolina. As a start, I listed some 9 school districts. I brought up the need to have forensic audits in our district, as great as we are, to look for fraud, waste, and abuse, and to develop ways of preventing it. I'm concerned, however. Mr. Gant and Mr. White chastised me for using the word corruption, and I was threatened to be escorted out by law enforcement. You stated a forensic audit, an in-depth look at accounting practices, where monies are going, and your policies and procedures to prevent fraud was unnecessary. You said forensic audits were costly, and you were perfectly satisfied with the basic annual audit performed by auditors you hire that barely scratch the surface. I quoted a retired superintendent who has started a trend of community-based forensic auditing committees, a free service from people in the community with expertise and who care. But also on July 16th, Mr. White stated that he wants to create a board policy to stop me from speaking. Mr. White, your exact words
Ms.
were...
Murphy, I'll just ask you if you not call out board members, and you're talking about the same subject that kind of gets us on this board every time, but if you'll make your statement, and without calling board members by name, I would appreciate it.
Well, it's a concern.
It's what you've got written down.
That action, it was a public statement that Mr. White said to create a policy to eliminate my ability to speak.
I'm asking you not to call out board members,
Okay.
individuals, and respect the board, respect the administration.
Well, I don't understand the attacks and I don't understand the resistance. Also, there seems to be a problem with the board meeting video links on your websites. Beginning with my comments on July 16th during public participation, One of the board members' comments to prevent me from speaking, the threat of being escorted out by law enforcement, and every meeting before that can't be seen on your site. The dozens of comments that were made by concerned citizens last year when you voted to buy the school site on Amex Ferry Road for $1 million. Ms. Hammond voted against the location and the price. And the poor treatment they received.
Ms. Murphy,
from-
I'll ask you again if you won't call individual board
I
members' names. For
apologize.
whatever reason you choose, just don't call the names of board members or faculty or staff. Okay.
Anyhow, these videos can't be seen by the public. And at that meeting, it seemed evidence that the business may be taking place behind the scenes. One of the board members asked the CFO, didn't we set aside $1 million to buy property? However, the board never voted on a budget to do that or to earmark money for land. What else has been earmarked without the public vote? A month ago, I asked a succinct question. What were the specific questions that you could not build a school on land you purchased in 2010, some of which was condemned, one board member voted against it. You paid $600,000 for the site, paid architects to design a school, which
Ms.
looks
Murphy,
like that was
your-
over $6,000.
Your time has expired.
May I finish since I was interrupted? I'm just about
If you
done.
succinctly finish, that'd be great.
Excuse me?
You can finish
Thank
quickly.
you. Thank you very much. You paid $600,000 for this site, paid architects to design a school. It looks like that was over $600,000. You paid for site testing and lawyers and real estate commissions. That should be an easy answer. You've had the property for 9 years, but I was told today that it will take 30 days to get an answer to that question.
Ms. Murphy, you need to wrap up your comments. I hadn't interrupted you that much.
Well, I said there's an election coming up, and
We're
don't
aware
you
of
think
that.
that it would be, the public deserves to hear an answer to that question, and I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gammon, I raise a point of privilege.
You can, and
The,
I'll raise one too.
just to be clear, obviously in 30 seconds, I can't look at every video, but it appears that every link on our district webpage for archive board meetings is active, and I don't, so if there is a specific board meeting that there's a problem, that we can communicate that, but I don't see an ongoing issue. Mrs. Goggins, are you aware? I just want to make sure I'm not making an inaccurate statement.
It's on PCs. I could find it on my mobile, but not on PCs.
Okay, we're good. I need to make a correction, Ms. Murphy. You mentioned in your hand-in on August 13th, that there was a condemnation and the property was taken. There's no condemnation. It's never been a condemnation. Well, you're shaking your head, but I'm not aware of any condemnation. I've been on this board 18 years. We've not seized property by eminent domain. You and I are not debating right now. I'm correcting an erroneous statement that you've made. You've been given a response to your request. You're going to get your information within the 30 days. That's pretty normal. And it's all in accordance with our policy, BEDH. So I just want to correct that there's been no condemnation of property. Ms.
Mr. Gant, we do have a policy that we can correct just blatantly false statements are made at the microphone. And the reason we adopted that policy some years ago, so that people didn't use this microphone as a staging ground for political purposes. And this is an election year, and I concur with you. We don't have the power. We did not condemn a piece of property. We had a piece of property that the zoning was changed. This board did not condemn a piece of property. And the earlier statements about us trying to stop her from talking related to her implying that this board was engaging in corruption, which is blatantly false. There's nothing wrong with her talking about corruption in general, but when she wants to use the microphone to imply and falsely accuse this board of something, that's where I raise that question. And I want to go on the record saying there is no evidence of corruption on this board. That's a false statement. There is no evidence of any property we've condemned. That is a blatantly false statement.
Not what I said.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, we are not in a dialogue. You are not engaged in this at this point. That concludes our public participation. Takes us to item number 13, which is actions as necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. And we need a motion on item 3B, which is selected employment item shown in Exhibit A. Do I have a motion?